So rhythm is like the core pillar that supports our track from collapsing. You know, you can nail all the other parts of your track, have really good arrangement and sound design, but if you don't have a solid rhythm, then you lack that foundation and your track usually ends up sounding a little bit amateur. So it's a bit of fun. We're going to start off today with a little bit of an exercise. I'm going to play a segment of track and display a few words on the screen, and you're going to choose which word you think best describes the groove of this track. So here we go.
Back to the sound of
So I'm going to play the same segment of song now and display 3 different words this time, and you're going to choose again which word you think best describes the groove.
back to the sound of
So these are the ones that I chose. If you chose other ones, that's totally fine. Leave them in the comments below and we can discuss that. But not properly understanding the character of our groove or our track in general is the first mistake that so many producers make. So simply describing your track to yourself, as we have here, is really going to help guide you to make good decisions when you're producing. So we have to think about what type of groove we're going for, and we have these sort of words in the back of our mind. We just don't want to contradict ourselves when we're making our track. For example, if you have a really chill track, you're probably not going to want a really energetic drum section or a really big energetic kick drum, right? So as we become more advanced, this concept becomes subconscious, but in the early stages, it's really nice to set a bit of an intention, a bit of focus on a few words, and then try and make everything sort of complement those words. Just quickly, if you are just starting out, I think you would really benefit from our free EDM starter kit. It includes curated presets, samples, resources, and more to get your feet off the ground when you're beginning. So keeping in mind the character of our groove, I think today I'm going to go for something a little bit funky. Have a listen to this house rhythm here. It's just a basic house beat. And that brings us on to our next mistake, which is making complex melodies. So I've got this simple beat here and I'm going to make a really simple bassline melody to sort of show you how simplicity makes working with grooves way easier. So first things first, you know, if we have a melody that's too complex, we often lack the repetition that we need for the melody to be catchy, for it to get stuck in our head. So I'm just going to start off with something really simple, just 2 notes here, and I'm just going to show you how this simplicity, we can start off with our foundation, our very simple foundation, just a few notes, and then we start building around it and working up from there. So let's have a listen to this. So just got these 2 notes, really, really simple stuff. What I'm going to do is actually duplicate out this section here. So now we have a 2-bar loop, and I'm just going to make a few extra notes here. I think I'm going to do something like this, and this note is just slightly differently placed than this one. I'm also going to put a groove on there. So, sorry, a bit of swing on the notes as well. So let's have a listen to this now. And so I think the next thing I'm going to do is just make 2 more notes here. So again, what we're doing is starting off simple, and these are like our anchor notes, these 2 ones here. They're the same every single time. This one is changing over here, so there's a little bit of variation, but these 2 notes are the same every single time, and we're building the groove around those notes. So let's have a look at these 2 notes up here. I kind of like that vibe. I'm thinking that maybe I could extend this out, and then I just actually want this to sort of glide up to it. So I'm going to put the glide in here. See how this goes? I like that. I might just increase the velocity of this one a bit. And I'm just going to repeat this over here. Do the same thing here as well. And I think I'm just going to make a slight variation and bring these ones down a little bit as well. So let's have a listen to this now. So a really simple bass line. I haven't done too much. I'm just done a little bit of variation. So if you're a beginner, I would highly, highly recommend just starting simple, starting really strong and solid, and then building things around it. It's going to make the production process so much easier, and you're going to learn way quicker as well. Another really good thing that simple melodies will do is you'll see there's a whole bunch of gaps here. There's a whole bunch of gaps, and that will help us to weave the rest of our groove together to create a really strong sense of cohesion between all of the elements. So this is our next mistake, a lack of cohesion between all of the elements of our track. So I've got this synth here as well. It sounds like this. And I'm just going to try and find a nice spot to place it. We're going to keep in mind that we want a real strong sense of cohesion. So I'm going to look for a nice cohesive spot that really works with this bass line and really complements the bass line and the groove. So creating grooves for me is so much fun because it's really just like piecing together puzzle pieces. When all of the different elements of our track are working together, then we actually have a lot of meaning for each of the elements. And the groove is the thing that is holding all of these elements together. So the groove runs through our whole track, creating this strong sense of cohesion. And if we lack this cohesion, then our track sort of starts to fall apart. So I'm just going to sort of play around here and try and find a nice spot that works and creates a strong sense of cohesion with this bass line. So let's try this spot first. That works. That's nice. Let's sort of just drag it around the 16th note grid and see if we can find some other spots as well. That one doesn't work so much, I don't think. That also works as well. Maybe here, I don't think this will really work. No, it doesn't. Maybe we could try here. Maybe we could try something like this one on the actual second beat. The second bar, I meant to say. Or we could even try something like this. Let's have a listen to this. And then sort of like cut off the tail there. That actually sounds quite nice. What I also want to try is somewhere in between this sort of gliding note up here as well. So maybe this spot. And I think I'm going to drag the tail out as well. Ooh. Yep, I like that. Let's roll with that one. So I'm just going to duplicate this over here. And then now we have a nice spot for our synth, and our bass line are working together well. So a really important concept for making your track really cohesive is sort of understanding where the implications or the gaps are being created in your track. So if I play it here, you can actually see, or you can feel that there's a gap between these two bass notes. The groove sort of starts and then stops for a little bit. So let's have a listen to this. So this sort of spot in here, there's a bit of a gap here. You can see that it sort of just stops there after the bass note. So this gap is like a free spot in which we can use and put something in there. So what I'm going to do in this case is create a little MIDI clip in here. And I've actually got another bass track here, which is actually the exact same wavetable. I just duplicated the track and then just changed the filter frequency and the oscillator position very slightly. And what I'm going to do is sort of just play around, and I've got a note here. I'm just going to put it down onto C1 and put the groove on as well. So let's just have a listen to this and what this note is going to do in this little gap in here. So now I'm starting to weave together some other elements of our track as well and create a nice cohesive groove. What I also want to do is maybe try this spot here as well. So let's have a listen to this. I think I might just turn the filter frequency down a little bit. You could also try that at the start here as well. I think I prefer it over here instead. So we have this nice little gap still preserved here. And then we're just creating a little bit of variation on this bar here. And I might just duplicate that over. as well. So this is really all that I'm doing in this bass line melody. You could create a whole melody in this section, a little hook in this section, but I'm just trying to stay simple here and get my foundations right and stay really solid and cohesive. So here I'm going to move on to the chords layer here now, and I'm just going to make a 2-bar MIDI clip this time and put some chords in. I think I'm going to go over to my scale function and put it onto C minor. And then I'm just going to build out a chord first. So maybe something like this. Let's have a listen to this. I like that. And I'm just hearing something in my head here, so I'm just going to do something like this. This might be nice and groovy. I'm also just going to put this groove on as well. I think I'm just going to extend these notes out a little bit as well. And maybe just shorten these ones here. And then I think I want something a bit like just at the end of this second bar as well. So I might just duplicate this over here and move these over here and maybe just bring them up a little bit. And then I'm just going to delete some notes. Maybe just grab this one and drag it down here. So let's see how this goes. Maybe delete this one. Maybe even a slight variation over here as well. So I'm kind of moving quickly because I don't want to take too long on this. The reality is I have so much freedom here because my track is really simple. So it's actually way easier to create a nice groove because of all this simplicity, because of all these gaps, all these implications that I can fill. Let's just have a quick listen to this and see how this melody is gone here. So far, so good. I think everything is working together nicely, but I think I could make my drums a little bit more involved in the track and have them sort of interact with the other elements a little bit more, just to tie everything together. So this is what I'm sort of talking about with this cohesion. And I think that in here, there's a bit of this implication, this gap that I was talking about earlier. There's this gap here. What I'm thinking that I might try out is just to delete these notes in here. And now we have this bass note that plays at the same time as this kick, and it's going to give us this feeling that the groove is stopped. And then everything is going to come back in with this synth chord in here. So really what I'm trying to do is get my tracks to interact with each other. So my chords is now going to be interacting with my drums here. So I'm just going to play it from over here and let's have a listen. So you can see how everything is sort of working together. This synth tail is ringing out and then it stops at the same time as the drums. So this is like interacting with the drums group, and then it sort of starts at the same time as these chords, this bass line and this synth and these chords are all interacting together. So everything is working together and really nice and strong. So I really do think prioritizing these three things, having a strong character and identity of the groove, so sort of describing the groove to yourself and adhering to those words, and then also making sure your melodies, or specifically your groove melody, your bassline melody, is nice and simple. This will help to make your song a lot more catchy and also leave a whole bunch of gaps and implications for you to weave in other elements, and then have a really strong emphasis on cohesion. And again, like we said, just getting all the elements to interact with each other. And that way we're going to create a really cohesive and strong and solid groove. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the videos today, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. But otherwise, thanks for hanging out, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.